All right, let's get into it. Bryce Gelman here, as always, my multiple streams per week. Today, going to be discussing just released a couple hours ago. I think it was leaked maybe yesterday or this morning, but Knicks versus Celtics to open up the season. It's usually the case where the Knicks play the Celtics on opening night, but this time it's going to be at the TD Garden, and it is going to be on ring night. So the Celtics will be receiving their championship rings that night, and the Knicks have an unbelievable opportunity to spoil that night. We're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about what I was lucky enough to experience last Wednesday with Jalen Brunson's captain ceremony. I got the invite last second to that. That was very fun. I met John Starks. I met Mikal Bridges. It was a fun time all around. A lot of big names there, and just a really emotional event. And it was such a random time in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. And there were a lot of people who obviously weren't able to go. So I was lucky enough to get that invite as a season ticket holder. My dad wasn't able to make it, so I went alone. But that was a really fun time. So we're going to be talking about that. But I wanted to start off with the Celtics, Knicks, starting off the season against each other. Of course, again, the Knicks are playing the Celtics at the TD Garden October 22nd. On TNT, probably going to be the 7:30 game, definitely going to be the earlier game of the two games. And listen, let me just say this, and we're going to discuss this as the offseason, starts to wind down and the season starts to pick back up. I really like how the Knicks match up against the Celtics. I think that the Knicks, out of all the teams in the Eastern Conference, match up best against the Boston Celtics. I don't think it's close. I do think the Knicks could fall victim to various teams in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics, of course, being one of them. You can't count them out. I, in my right mind, would never say this. The Knicks are guaranteed to win a 7-game series against the Celtics. I do think that they have the best chance in the Eastern Conference. But I also think the Knicks could fall victim to the matchup that is the 76ers. I think the 76ers, if they are healthy, would beat the Knicks. I really do. It's unfortunate that's the case. But it also, it's a lot to ask for with your two main stars being Joel Embiid and Paul George, to have them both healthy at the exact same time. I don't think that is a likelihood that we can expect. I really don't whatsoever. But if they are healthy, I do think Knicks are in trouble to them. And then you look at the Bucks as well. But I know, I'm kind of getting off topic here. But Knicks, Celtics, to start off the season. I think the NBA is trying to push this narrative. The Knicks and the Celtics have a rivalry, and maybe they do. And maybe every time they play, there's a certain sense of a heightened, I don't know, intensity of the players and how they play. But I wouldn't say that the Knicks and the Celtics are the biggest rivalry for the Knicks. I think there's a bigger rivalry against the Sixers. I think there is more intensity every time those teams play. I think there's more animosity between the fans of both teams. Celtics fans are just insufferable. They're the worst when it comes to your team facing off against the other team. But the Sixers fan, that's a completely different story. They seek out trolling Knicks fans. The main antagonist of all that is Spike Eskin, who used to run WFAN. I used to have a close relationship. I'm calling him out. I don't really care. He has completely conformed to the idea of being an anti-Knicks troll on Twitter, and there are a million more accounts just like him. If the Knicks fans devoted as much time against the Sixers as Sixers fans devoted against Knicks fans, every single fan base would call us insane and crazy, because the amount of hate that Knicks fans get across the NBA is second to none. Somehow, the majority of people have labeled us as bad fans. Apparently, sticking with your team for 30 years when you don't have any success is being a bad fan. What a notion. That's crazy. I think the Knicks, though, and the Celtics could turn into a massive rivalry. And I thought before the Sixers made all the moves they made, those two teams would be on the top of the Eastern Conference. I still think they're 1 and 2. There are a lot of people out there that think the Sixers are better than the Knicks. I do not think so. I think the Sixers get smoked in a 7-game series against the Celtics. I don't think it's particularly close. And I'm going to go back to what I said at the start of this live stream. The Knicks have the best chance to beat the Boston Celtics in a 7-game series in the Eastern Conference and in the NBA because they possessed two things. I mean, to be fair, let's just objectively put it this way. They possess something that most teams in the NBA do not have. And that is a top 3 wing defender who can also shoot the 3 and play a serviceable job on the offensive end. And they don't have one of those guys. They have 2. They have 2. The Knicks had an issue these past 3 years where they were small. Josh Hart, I mean, to be fair, he even is the backup 4 now, but you were seeing a lot of Josh Hart at the 4, even in the playoffs. And that still could be the case, but now Mikal Bridges slides into the shooting guard position. OG Anunoby at the 3. Julius Randle at the 4. I mean, the switchability, the versatility, particularly on the defensive end for this Knicks team, it will be second to none in the NBA. What do the Celtics have? What is their calling card? It's, of course, their talent. I mean, you look 1 through 5, there's no team in the NBA that can boast as good of a starting 5 as they do. I think the Knicks are a close second. But you look at Tatum and Brown, and then what Derek White provides. They are just so good. And then the spacing, of course, with Porzingis at the 5. No team matches up well against them besides the Knicks. In the NBA right now, what does it take to be successful? It's not being a top-heavy team who relies on a big 3. That's not how teams are constructed anymore, and that is not how teams win in the NBA anymore. It's depth and talent from 1 through 5. And versatility in the different lineups that you can create. The Knicks have that. They do. Do the Sixers? No. They might have depth, because depth is the second part of all this, of the equation, the winning equation. You need to have depth to win. You can't just roll those guys out there in the starting lineup. Yes, you could stagger them, and if you Tatum and Brown, one could be playing 40 minutes a game, and both of them will be playing 40 minutes a game. But in the 8 minutes that one of them is off the court, the other one automatically be on. And the Knicks have that now. Because what we saw last year when the Knicks made the trade for OG Anunoby, giving up their depth in Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, you saw Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson staggered. I think that will continue to be the case, especially when you consider the fact the Knicks have a complete lack of depth in the front court. We know this. Precious Achiuwa, he's a great talent. I think he fits with this Knicks team extremely well. I'd much prefer him as the backup 4 to Julius Randle than the backup 5 to Mitchell Robinson. Especially when you consider Mitchell Robinson's injury history. The fact that he's only played 70 or more games in one season, I think this is 6 or 7 seasons now for Mitchell Robinson. That's an issue. And you don't need me to tell you that. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. I know that's the Knicks' Achilles heel going into this next season. Either way, all of this aside, the Knicks match up extremely well against the Boston Celtics. And I am very excited for opening night on October 22nd, just over 2 months away. The NBA offseason flies by, especially when you have the Olympics in the middle of it, when you have as exciting of an Olympics as we all witnessed, the ability, the opportunity to see Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant on the same basketball team. What a fun time that was. I know it's a little bit off topic, but that was awesome to witness. And Steph Curry, man. I mean, if it weren't for Steph Curry, U.S. would be going home maybe with the bronze medal. They probably would have lost to Serbia. I don't know. I can't even say probably. They definitely would have lost to Serbia. They definitely would have lost to France in the gold medal game. I digress. you're just joining now, Bryce Gelman here, talking about Knicks-Celtics opening night. I also want to discuss what we get to witness on Christmas Day. And for the life of me, I can't understand why the Knicks continue to be the matinee game? I just said this right yesterday. The matinee game at noon. The last 4 years now, this will be the fourth straight year, I believe, of the Knicks playing at 12 o'clock at noon on Christmas Day. And this time we get to witness the Knicks versus Wemby and the San Antonio Spurs, who the Knicks should have a relatively easy time against. But Victor Wembanyama did not play well. I was at the game last year in November when he visited Madison Square Garden. One of the most exciting debuts that at least we expected. But Victor Wembanyama, he comes out, he absolutely bricks his first couple shots. You could see the pressure was getting to him. What he just did on the world stage, being France's best player on both ends of the court, you saw a little bit of trepidation on the offensive end. Defensively, he still held his own. But he's going to continue to rise to the occasion. I think that this is just going to be another notch in his book of wins. He's going to go into the Garden on Christmas Day, and he's going to show off. It's the ultimate stage, especially at noon on Christmas Day. And I'm not 100% sure what the Christmas Day schedule will be like for the NFL, but you could best assume that Knicks, again, I know it's at noon. It's not an ideal time for people waking up and celebrating Christmas morning and the gifts and the family and whatnot. But the NFL is a different animal. It's a different beast. And there will be millions of people tuning into the NFL, plenty more people tuning into the NFL than there will be any of the NBA games. But the Knicks and the Spurs will have the opportunity to not go ahead or not go against and up against these NFL games. So that will be a fun time. That will be a good game. Wemby, I really think that he's just going to continue improving. He's going to continue to rise to the occasion. And there isn't a better place to do that than Madison Square Garden. We've seen Kobe do it. We've seen LeBron do it. We've seen Steph Curry do it. Next one of those guys to show off in front of the New York crowd in the Mecca is Victor Wembanyama. And the NBA is giving us NBA fans a treat by putting that game at 12 o'clock on Christmas Day. And I will knock on wood. That's usually a game I can go to. I get to go to like 2 games a year. It's not great. Listen, I'm not complaining. I get to sit, in a great spot on the court, but it has gotten very expensive. I get to go to 2 games a year. And one of those games I get to go to was the Christmas Day game. The other game that I asked for last year was Spurs Knicks because I wanted to see Victor Wembanyama in person. Knock 2 birds out with 1 stone. Hopefully get a chance to go to that Christmas Day game like I always do with my sister. That'll be a fun time. Another thing I wanted to discuss, I mentioned this at the jump here on this live stream. Bryce Gelman again, for those of you just tuning in, talking about the Knicks, talking about specifically Knicks-Celtics opening night. You could when this is over, I think you could scroll back. You might be actually able to scroll back now. You might have to wait until this is over. But I discussed Knicks-Celtics opening night. I essentially told you why I think the Knicks are the best matchup against the Celtics, why I think the Knicks have the best chance to beat the Celtics in a 7-game series, and also why I think that the Knicks don't really match up well against the Sixers, and it would be an ideal chance for the Knicks and Celtics to match up in the playoffs before it would be Knicks-Sixers and whatnot, and yada, yada, yada. You could tune back in. You could scroll back if you'd like to. But let me just discuss this. And I had the fortunate opportunity to attend Jalen Brunson's captain ceremony on Wednesday. I was in the gym, just doing whatever I normally do on a random day in the middle of the week. And I get a call from my dad. He's like, "Do you want to go to this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." They only invited like 20 season ticket holders because most people work, most people do things. My work started at 2 o'clock. This event started at 1:30. I was like, you know what? I'll miss a little time of work. Why not? So I go, and they've got this unbelievable setup. You may have seen it on Instagram with every single one of Jalen Brunson's jerseys, every one of his awards, his college ring from 2018, not the one with Josh Hart, not the Chris Jenkins buzzer beater, but the one in 2018 with Dante DiVincenzo and all those guys. And his Naismith award. Like, there was every single thing that you would ever think of when you think about Jalen Brunson's career in where the Delta Club is normally at the Garden, and then you walk out there and they lowered the Jumbotron, they lowered Garden Vision, and they have all these chairs set up, and they've got the Knicks backdrop with the podium where Alan High would eventually speak and technically MC the event. And then all the people started to fill in with I mean, the first guy who walks in, you obviously recognize Patrick Ewing. Then you see obviously the other ones. You see John Starks. You see some celebrities that were there. You saw Ben Stiller, Fat Joe, a lot of the current Knicks, not all of them, not the most eye-popping names, not the most recognizable faces in Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo and Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle, but Mikal Bridges was there. Tyler Kolek was there. Bacome Dadier was there. Kenta Bates-Diop was there. And it was just a great event. It was an emotional event. They had a video that played on Garden Vision of all of the past captains in New York City, or at least the most notable ones. Specifically, you saw Aaron Judge, you saw Derek Jeter, Mark Messier, Walt Clyde Frazier at the end. He was the last guy, and he, of course, gave a shout out to the late, great Willis Reed, who was known as the captain of the Knicks. And I said this last week when Jalen Brunson was announced as the captain of the Knicks, and this wasn't knowing that the Knicks were going to do this whole elaborate event for him and plan this unbelievable gathering of people, of his family, of Knicks people, and of Leon Rose and the World Wide West, James Dolan, everyone was there. Jalen Brunson has the opportunity to go down with the name, synonymously with the name captain, as much as Willis Reed did. If he leads the Knicks to a championship, Jalen Brunson will forever be known as the captain of the Knicks. That will be a part of his nickname, just as much as it is with Jeter, just as much as it is with Willis Reed. I really believe that. The Knicks gave Jalen Brunson this major event, which a lot of people said was a little bit over the top. Understood. I get it. Who else has ever taken a $113 million pay cut? Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, whoever else you want to mention in the past who took $5 million there, $10 million there. No one has ever taken that much money. No one. When you consider the timeline of events for this franchise, the biggest catalyst I have is, of course, James Dolan hiring Leon Rose in 2020. It was James Dolan stepping out of the way, firing Steve Mills, who had absolutely zero idea what he was doing. He was in La La Land constantly, and hiring a guy who's been involved in basketball for almost his entire life in Leon Rose. And there were a lot of questions about it. And will an agent be able to seamlessly transition over to the front office job? And will there be conflicts of interest and whatnot? And he answered all those doubts. And he signed Julius Randle. I guess Julius Randle was before him, but I think that Leon Rose getting him after that, he was able to effectively build around Julius Randle. What has made the Knicks as successful as possible, you got to give Leon Rose credit for this. But his signing of Jalen Brunson is what has catapulted the Knicks into a different conversation. Any other moves that they made after the fact have helped that cause. They have become a serious contender after all those moves, of course. But they've become a serious entity because of Jalen Brunson. Because of the heart, the attitude, the head down, I'm going to bust my ass every game mentality that the rest of the team has embraced. And of course, when you bring in like-minded guys who went to college and thrived in programs that was a calling card, of course, that's going to help. But Jalen Brunson being at the center of all of it certainly eases a lot of concerns for Knicks fans like myself and for most of you out there. Just knowing that the Knicks have a guy they can rely on, a guy in late game situations who is going to put the team on his back, a guy who isn't going to be at the end of the bench sulking because he's not getting his way in a game. Shout out Julius Randle, who he was gracious about this, and he congratulated Jalen Brunson, and all the credit to him. But we've seen a lot of Julius Randle in the past sulking, sitting on the end of the bench. not talking to his teammates, not discussing with his coaches. But that just showed you Julius Randle was never going to be able to be a number one on a championship team. Not because of the talent. I mean, listen, he's a very talented individual. And unfortunately, his success in the regular season has not translated to the postseason, something that we need to see. It's something that if the Knicks want to be successful whatsoever and win a championship, they're going to need Julius Randle to change his ways. Jalen Brunson's a different animal. He's a different beast. He deserved this. He deserved all the fanfare. He deserved what he got last Wednesday. And it was an honor to be able to be in the presence of greatness like Jalen Brunson. And his comments echoed exactly what I'm saying. He wants to win a championship. That's it. That's the ultimate goal. That's why he took a $113 million pay cut. That is why the Knicks honored him. That mentality. It's the right mentality. Hard-nosed, physical, constantly busting your ass. That is going to be what brings the Knicks a championship. It'll be the only thing that brings the Knicks a championship. Any other way, it wouldn't happen. All right, that'll do it for today. I just wanted to get that, get those thoughts off my chest because I'm disgusted at anyone who is insinuating that the Knicks went above and beyond for Jalen Brunson. Damn right they did. They did for a reason. They should have built a statue already. They should have commissioned the best sculptor in New York and built him a statue the second he signed on the dotted line. It's a shame they did it. So I don't want to hear any other person out there saying they did too much for this ceremony. They brought out too many people. They honored him too well. He deserved it because he is going to be the guy who brings the Knicks and the city of New York a championship. 5 years. That's the window right now. Because they re-signed Jalen Brunson to the team-friendly deal that they signed him to. That's all I got. I'm Bryce Gelman. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you are not a follower of mine on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, screw Elon, then please give me a follow. Got some good content coming out, a few live streams every week, some videos on YouTube, and of course my awful tweets. I won't even lie, they're terrible, but I try my best. So if you like this, give me a follow, and have a good week, everyone. Speak to you all maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. We'll see. Keep an eye out for that. And one giant step this week. Sean Morash will be back with me. We will be breaking down all things Giants, Lions, and of course what's happening with training camp, the injuries, whatnot. Stay tuned for that as well. But until then, I will see you all later this week.